Okay, so let's open up our kit. We're definitely going to want this today. A little washing station, some glue. We're going to want our body, and our neck. This is the back and sides in cardboard to protect it. It's very delicate. Then we have our parts bag, we have sandpaper, and just some paper to work on. So I'm going to move the box out of the way. I'm going to make myself a little workspace. I don't want to mess up the table that I'm working on. Put some paper down to work on. I think one piece of paper is enough for today. Now, I'm going to want some of the parts out of this bag. What we're going to want today is we are going to want the eye screw. And we are going to want the washer for the eye screw. And we're going to want our tape, and we are going to want this. This is the nut. Everything else can stay in the bag for now, and I recommend that you leave everything in a bag because it's easy to lose small parts. We don't want to lose any parts. So we have the eye screw, the washer for it, and then we have our tape. And we have our nut. We're going to need those items. So all of this, I'm just going to set that aside now. Now I'm just going to take a small amount of this tape and just tape my paper down so it's not moving around while I'm trying to work on this stuff. There we go. Now I have a nice work area. I think I'll take my small parts and just set them inside the box here so I don't lose them. I'm going to start with the body and the neck. So the back and sides, I'm just going to set them aside for now. So I need to get a little bit of water because I'm about to start using glue. And this glue cleans up with water. But if you let it dry, then you have a problem. So if you accidentally get the glue on something, just wipe it up right away with a damp sponge or cloth, and you'll be okay. Now, the way this is going to go together, I'm going to want this notch to be facing up because that's where my nut goes. And you can see how there's a little angle cut here where my tuner is going to go in. So the string's going to run up and across here. So I don't want to put it in this way. This is backwards, and I know it's backwards because there's no slot for my nut. So this is how I want it. Now on this end, there's a hole in the end of the sides, and we'll call this the box. There's a hole in the end of the box. And there's also a little mark right there. There's a mark on the box and there's a mark on the end of the neck, and those lines are there to help me line things up. So I'm going to set this up. I want to put it together just like this, so I'm going to set my parts the way I want them. Now, as soon as I glue it, I'm going to put the nut in the washer in. What? I don't know why I called that a nut. As soon as I glue it, I'm going to put the eye screw and the washer in. But I just realized my fingers might not be strong enough to screw the eye screw in. So my tuner can be used as a tool. I can put the end of the tuner in there, and that's like having a wrench, so I can get a little more torque if I need to. Alright, so I'm going to open my glue. And what I want to do is I want to put glue in this pocket where the neck is going to go. And the trick with glue is you don't want too much and you don't want too little. If you have too little, you'll end up with a weak joint. And if you have too much, you're going to end up with an ugly mess everywhere. So I'm just going to put a fair amount of glue in here. You can kind of get a sense of how much I'm doing there. All right. Now, I'm going to put glue on the very end of the neck. And on this part, I'm going to glob a pretty good amount on there. I'm going to be very generous with my glue. Kind of a puddle of glue on there. Now I'm going to take this and just kind of set it in place. But before I got going too far, I got glue on my finger. And I really don't want to spread that all over my wood, because it won't look nice. And it's very hard to sand dry glue off. So I'm going to get my little sponge. I'm just going to clean the glue off my finger. And there we go. Now, as I mentioned before, I have a little line on the box and on the neck. And I'm going to line those two lines up. And I'm going to push the neck to the end. And now I'm going to take my eye screw. I'm going to fit it through the hole in the end of the box. And because it's pre-drilled, I should be able to just get it started with my fingers. And I'm just going to screw that in as far as I can. And then when it starts to get a little tight, I can just use my tool here to snug it up. And what I want is I want to look down inside of here and make sure it's squishing that glue a little bit. I don't want a gap in there. Oh yeah, I feel it. It's nice and tight. And once I know it's tight, now what I want is for this eye screw to go this way. I don't want it sideways like this. I want it so the string, we're going to put the string down through the eye screw. So I'm going to turn that eye screw so it's like a basketball hoop. So I can make it shoot it right through there, that wire, when I put the string on. So now the other thing I want to do, when I was screwing it, it was wanting to twist the neck. And you can kind of tell, you'll see a gap on this side and it's tight on this side. So I'm just going to twist my neck back to get rid of that gap and make sure it's straight in there. So I can see my glue is gushing out, so I know I got it nice and tight. And same thing here. I can see my glue gushing out, so I know I got that nice and tight. So that can just sit there for a minute. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my back and my sides. Or actually, this is my back and my face. These are the sides. So I want to show you something. I have an extra piece of wood here. This is a back, and it's very, very, very thin wood. We make wood on musical instruments very thin because that's what helps it make a nice loud sound. But before it's glued to the box, it's very fragile, very weak. So I'm going to sacrifice this one to show you. So I'm going to just kind of bend it a little. See how easily that broke? And now this is broken. I just ruined it. Now because this is special wood, I'm going to actually repair this. I'm going to glue that crack. I'm going to glue it all back together, and then I'll be able to use it on another instrument. But you do want to be very careful with these because until they're glued down, they're very delicate. So I have two pieces of wood in here, a back and a face. And I know which one is the face because it has two holes in it. And this is sitting face up. So this is the neck of the diddly bow. So I want to glue the face on so that the two holes are towards the neck. We do not want it like this. That would be upside down. We want it to go like this. I also noticed that this says glue right here. So one side is supposed to be to the outside, that's the part you're going to look at. And the part that says glue, that's the part we're going to glue to the box. You might notice that there's some little holes in here, some little flaws. This wood, this is very, very special wood. This is redwood, and it's old growth redwood, and you can tell by how many growth rings are in it. New redwood doesn't have nearly that many growth rings in it. Someone replaced the windows in their house, and I saw that it was old growth redwood, so I saved the window frames so that I could make musical instruments out of it. It's hard to get wood this nice, and so I reclaimed it. In fact, all of the wood in these diddly bows is reclaimed wood. This would be very, very expensive to buy all this wood, so I didn't buy it, I recycled it. Alright, so now we have the tricky task of gluing the back and the face on. So I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to glue all the way around this edge. Now I can tell you right now, when you're gluing, you don't want to take your finger and run it like this because you'll get a splinter in your finger from the wood. So you can dab the glue or you can go this way with the glue, but don't run your finger like that or like this because you'll end up with a splinter. But you can go like that. See, that's what we call across the grain. So I want my glue. See how I'm dabbing. Dabbing is good. Uh-oh. See, I made a mess right there. But that's okay, because I have my sponge. In a minute, I'm going to clean that up. This is some beautiful wood I have here, and I want it to look really nice when I'm done. And dried glue is really pretty hard to get off. You can sand it off, but it takes quite a bit of effort. So why not just use your sponge and wipe the extra glue off right now, and you'll be good. Now I will caution you, when we're done gluing this, we're going to tape the back and the front on, and tape will not stick to wet wood, so be careful, don't use too much sponge. If you get this too wet, your tape won't stick. Okay, that looks like a pretty good amount of glue. So now I'm going to clean my finger because I don't want to grab my wood and get glue all over it. There we go. Now this is the back, so I want the piece without the holes in it. And I want to look for where it says glue. It says glue right there, so I know that side goes down into the glue. I'm just going to set that on there. And now I can take my fingers and make sure that it isn't overhanging on either side. I can center it up nicely. And I'm going to check my edges here too and make sure it's in the center. So they're sitting on the box nice and even. Now what I can do is I'll take a piece of my special tape. I'm going to tape it in 1, 2, 3, and 4 spots. There we go. Now I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to get ready to glue the front on. So here we go. Okay, I'm going to wash the glue off my fingers before I grab that front plate. I don't want glue on it all over it. There we go. Okay, and there is a beautiful face for my diddly bow. I'm going to make sure the 2 holes are up towards the neck. I do not want it this way. I want it this way. And I want to look where it says glue. It says glue right there, so I'm going to put that down into the glue. Now I'm going to check the top and the bottom and the sides to make sure I really have this right in the middle. I don't want it overhanging the edge. I don't want to see a hole, like if I go like this and I'm going to have a hole down in there. I'm going to make sure it's really right in the middle where I want it. And now, this tape sticks to itself very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this tape over the tape that I used for the other side. If I have any water on there, it's not going to stick. And then I have a problem. If you accidentally do that, you might need to run and grab some rubber bands or a piece of string and just wrap it around there, because when this is gluing, it wants pressure on it. So now that I have the front and the back glued on there, I'm going to take my tape and I'm going to go all the way around. And I'm going to try and pull the tape kind of tight. So I'm going to squeeze the box and pull this tape kind of tight. If you pull too tight, the tape will break. So you don't have to go crazy tight. Just a little spring tension. I'm going to squeeze the box and bring the tape around. There we go. So I've gone all the way around. Okay, so now I'm going to look, I'm going to check, and it feels like I need a little tape right here. I can see when I squeeze it, there's glue gushing out, and we want it to gush out. We want to make sure it's all glued solid. So I'm going to do a little more taping. Okay, I went and got my blue tape because I ran out of green. I'm going to give you guys 9 yards of tape, so don't worry, you won't run out. I shorted myself, but I'll make sure you guys have 9. Did I say 9 yards? I think that's how much. Now I'm going to inspect it. I can see that the glue got in there all the way around. The glue got in there all the way around. I'm going to check the ends and make sure the glue got in there. Yep. So I've got good glue contact everywhere because I can see it squishing out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sponge and I'm going to wring all of my water out of it. I don't want a bunch of water in my wood. So I'm going to really, really, really wring this sponge out until it's dry. And now I can wipe off the extra glue. I want to wipe off as much of the extra glue as I can, because dried glue is not pretty, and this is some beautiful wood. I want it to look as nice as I can get it. I can do a little sanding at the end, but glue doesn't sound very easily. There we go. That looks pretty good. So now I'll just let this sit here until it's dry. but I am on the kitchen table. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to clean up. When you put the cap on the glue, if you rest the glue on the table, try and put the cap on. That's the best way to do it. If you try and do it up here in your hands, it's easy to break the container and have glue everywhere. Alright, there we go. So now, oh, but you know what? There is one more thing we can do today. Let's put the nut in. We might as well. Alright, so I'm going to need a little bit of glue. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a very small amount of glue across the bottom of the nut. You don't need a lot. To use a lot, it'll make a mess. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on there. And then I'm going to take my nut and I'm going to press it down into this slot. There we go. So now my nut is glued into the slot. And mine fits pretty tightly. And yours probably will too. But if you feel like it's a little bit loose in there, well, then you can just put a piece of tape on it and make sure it holds there until it's dry. There we go. So now I'll put my glue away. That's my slide. I don't want to lose that. Now I can, uh-oh, get some extra water on there. I better clean that up. Alright, there we go. Now I'll put my tuner in there. Glue. Here's my parts bag. I'll go dump this water out. Rinse out my sponge, and I can dispose of this paper. I'm pretty much done with the messy glue part. Okay. Okay, so I dumped out my water and rinsed out my sponge. Just put all that in there. Oh, and don't forget the sandpaper. Make sure you get all the little parts. Okay. I can put all my box back together. And I can take this and set it in my room. And there we go. The kitchen table is clean. My project is away. And I will see you next week when we take the next steps on our diddly bow. And yeah, just let that glue dry. You can let it sit until next week's class, or if you want to check on it, just make sure you wait 2 or 3 hours.